And welcome to another exploration of Descartes' Discourse on Method, still using the Hackett edition. And I'm still experimenting with the old phone because there's something wrong with the battery in my current phone. And so it doesn't fit. Something about the battery, not the battery. Something about the phone case makes it not fit properly where the other one fits. So I have it resting on a teacup and it's all very ridiculous and the lighting doesn't feel right at all. But let's do what we can. And what we can do is introduce Part 5 of the Discourse on Method. In one sentence, Part 5 of the Discourse on Method is Descartes' defense of his dualism. We probably won't need nearly as many videos to get through this as we did to get through Part 4, although there's a lot more text in Part 5. But a lot of this text is like the long description of the circulatory system. My word, how long is that defense of the circulatory system? According to my marginalia, it goes from, in this edition, about halfway through page 26 all the way through page 31 at the top. So roughly almost 5 pages of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, almost half of the fifth part of the Discourse on Method is Descartes' defense of the circulatory system, which is actually not bad as a 1600s defense. A 1600s account of the circulatory system. It's pretty good actually, but you've seen better in your childhood science classes, probably with helpful illustrations. You know, the oxygenated blood is red and the deoxygenated blood is blue, or whatever it is. The important aspect of his discussion of the circulatory system is not that he describes the circulatory system accurately and usefully. I mean, for 1600s medical science, it's actually pretty good in that category. But that's not what really matters. What really matters is, why is he talking about the circulatory system in a book about epistemology and metaphysics? Well, I'll tell you, but I don't think I'll tell you just now. We'll save it for later. Let's just briefly introduce Part 5 of the Discourse. Maybe we'll read one paragraph or so. Page 23 in this edition. He says, I would be quite happy to continue and to show here the whole chain of other truths that I have deduced from these first ones. So, he's now applied his method of doubt to the foundations of knowledge, to philosophy. And he's proven, I think, therefore I am, therefore using his clever arguments, God exists, therefore using the insight that God is a perfect being and would not give us these completely false ideas of a world outside our minds, of the reliability of reason, and these massively unreliable faculties of our 5 senses and of reason. He's proved, using this analysis, that the world outside my mind does exist, reason can be trusted, my 5 senses are somewhat reliable in putting me in contact with the world outside my mind, although you have to be careful with the senses in particular. And these are the first truths in the new system of knowledge. And he says, I would be quite happy to continue and to show here the whole chain of other truths I've deduced from these first ones. You can get a whole lot of other truths based on these first ones. But because in order to do this, it would now be necessary for me to speak about many questions that are a matter of controversy among the learned, with whom I have no desire to get into any quarrel, I believe it will be better for me to abstain from this and to state only in a general way what these questions are, in order to let those who are wiser judge whether it would be useful for the public to be particularly informed about them. Okay, it's maybe it's more false humility. Certainly, it's more of Descartes being very sneaky. I am not among the very learned. I do not want to get into a quarrel with the very learned. It's better for me to state in a general way what are controversial questions and to give you only the most general principles of my theory of the nature of reality and my theory in metaphysics. Only these very general things. And I certainly don't want to get involved into any controversy, and I sure don't want to tick off the Catholic University professors. I'm still a good Catholic, but at the same time, he's going to be giving a theory in metaphysics that is completely incompatible with Catholic philosophy as it has existed since, well, I mean, you have to define what is Catholic philosophy. Since Aquinas? Since Augustine? How far back does Catholic philosophy go? At any rate, it's incompatible with Catholic philosophy as it has been in development since at least Augustine. And in fact, this Catholic philosophy, which is hylomorphist, goes back as far as Aristotle and before. Even Plato was a hylomorphist. And if you don't know what these words mean, that's fine. We'll talk about them another time later on in this series, in all likelihood, if we don't, ask in a comment or find other videos. Probably my stupid pun joke video. Well, the title was a stupid pun. The context is a stupid pun, a stupid joke. But the content of the video was very serious. The Philosophy Shorts Denim and Descartes video, I'll probably talk about this and probably pause to define hylomorphism. But the point is, he's going to give a theory in metaphysics that's going to be very different. Here in part 5 of the discourse, it's going to be very different from the philosophy that guides the very tradition he says he doesn't want to get in a fight with. All right. I've always remained firm in the resolution that I had not made. I have always remained firm in the resolution I had made, not to suppose any principle but the one I have just used to demonstrate the existence of God and of the soul, and not to accept anything as true that did not seem to me clearer and more certain than the demonstrations of the geometers had hitherto seemed, and nevertheless, I dare say not only that I have found a means of satisfying myself within a short time regarding all the principal difficulties commonly treated in philosophy, I have, within a short time, found a means of satisfying myself concerning all the principal difficulties commonly treated in philosophy. I've solved all the mysteries the philosophers talk about. Well, that's impressive. But also that I have noted certain laws that God has so established in nature and of which he has impressed in our souls such notions that, after having reflected sufficiently on these matters, we cannot doubt that they are strictly adhered to in everything that exists or occurs in the world. Know this. He's doing something very important, and I suppose I really do need to stop and pause to define what is hylomorphism. Hylomorphism is the theory that what you think of as physical reality is not purely physical. So this is a teacup, right? So it's a chunk of matter, right? So it's made of particles. That's all it is, right? That's what you think. Well, you're wrong. Hylomorphism says the teacup is a combination of matter and form is a non-physical thing. The teacup is a combination of matter and form or nature or essence. I think if you go back to Aristotle's account of this, you'll find him using a Greek word, morphe, I think is the word. And morphe, form, not the same word I think you'll find when we're talking about Plato's forms. There may be connections, but we're not talking about the same thing as the forms of Plato. If you don't even know what I'm talking about, that's fine. Forget it. Let's talk about hylomorphism only. Hylomorphism is the theory that this thing is a combination of matter and Aristotelian language, morphe, form. The teacup has matter in it. That's part of what it's made of. But it's also made of non-physical something, is the point. The form or the essence or the nature of a teacup. Why is this a teacup and not just a set of molecules? It's because the nature of a teacup is there. And hylomorphism is the theory that physical things are combinations of matter plus that non-physical nature or essence that they all have. My hand has the nature of a hand in it. The mouse, the computer mouse, has the nature of a mouse in it. The comb has the nature of a comb in it. And the reason it's not just a set of particles is that the nature of a comb is there organizing the particles and giving this thing its own particular function. Hylomorphism has it that things in the physical world have their own nature or function, which is built into the non-physical part of them, and all of them are made of non-physical reality to some extent. They're made of matter plus form. Everything is made of matter plus form, while everything you think of as physical is made of matter plus non-physical form. That's hylomorphism. And in the hylomorphic physics, you have things obeying their nature. So the reason an object falls towards the center of the earth is that it's following its nature. Its nature is to move downward towards a place where it can rest. Now, understand that this is a way of thinking about the physical world based on the idea that things have built-in natures which control, or maybe I should say, which define their proper function. And of course, this connects to a view of humanity as having a proper function, the old Aristotelian ethics. All right. What Aristotle is doing is part of what you might have learned about years ago when being told something about Galileo. Galileo takes the the idea of physics where things have built-in natures and that's what makes them fall. And he reconsiders physics in terms of laws, not built-in natures, but laws. Descartes' experiments with gravity are supposed to show that when things fall, it's not because they have a particular nature and they're acting according to their nature, which impels them to fulfill their function of moving towards a state of rest as close to the center of the earth as possible. No, when things fall, it's because they're chunks of matter obeying the laws of physics. Chunks of matter obeying the laws of physics is the new way of thinking about the physical world, and that's what Descartes is doing. And it connects to what you may have learned about Galileo. All right, so what he's doing is he's switching from a idea of physics based on built-in natures, which you find with the old hylomorphic metaphysics. He's switching from that to the new modern law conception of physics. There's physical laws and there's chunks of matter that obey those laws. They move from a nature in this particular sense of the term, a built-in essence or character that's part of objects. The teacup has its own built-in function, character, nature, essence. The switch from using this sense of the word nature, a nature-based physics, to a law-based physics is part of what's going on here. And it's a huge deal. It's a huge reconsideration of metaphysics, as well as an attempt to establish the new physical sciences that are just getting started with people like Galileo, to establish it on a solid footing. So Descartes is doing all these things. He's supporting the new science, but he's trying to not get in trouble for supporting the new science in the wrong way. And in the process, he says, I'm not a problem. I'm not saying I know anything special. I don't want to get into these disputes, and I'm still a good Catholic. Look at me, I'm a good Catholic. But as he says, look at me, I'm a good Catholic, loudly and vividly gesturing with one hand, look at me, I'm a good Catholic. With the other hand, he's quietly rearranging our very idea of what it means for a thing to exist in such a way that Catholic thought can no longer continue to exist after his influence, at least not in the same way, unless we get rid of his influence and go back to a different kind of metaphysics. Anyway, a lot of that is what's going on in this sentence. I have found a means of satisfying myself regarding all the principal difficulties commonly treated in philosophy, and I've noted certain laws that God has so established in nature, in the physical world. God has established laws, and God has impressed in our souls certain notions. I believe he means notions about those laws, such that we cannot doubt that they are strictly adhered to in everything that exists or occurs in the world. In the physical world, everything follows those laws of physics that God built, that God put in place in the physical world, and God put in our minds ideas that correspond to these laws. So there could be no doubt about the existence of these laws, and there could be no doubt that this is the way the physical world works, says Descartes. Moreover, in considering the consequences of these laws, it seemed to me that I had seems to me that I have discovered many truths more useful and more important than all that I had previously learned or even hoped to learn. So far he's talked about how he's done some amazing stuff with metaphysics and with physics by building on the new foundation for knowledge explored using the method of doubt and the certainty it led us to in Part 4. And so in Part 5, he could have said, here is what I figured out about physics. Here is my new discoveries in astronomy and everything else. And he's about to tell us what sort of things he investigated, and then tell us why he did not want to talk about that in any detail. And then he's going to talk about something else, and I'll probably tell you in subsequent videos what he talks about, what the point is. And that's quite enough Descartes for today. Thank you for watching.